Lumineers, I thought I'd come to you with another video as promised, and today I want to talk about another deck that we've used quite a lot, quite extensively in Archazia's Island, and what we're looking for it in Reign of Jafar. Excuse me, I'm a little croaky today, a little bit of a sore throat, a little bit of a cold. Thanks, Hayley. So yeah, without further ado, Steelsong. So here's my list of Steelsong from the last set. As you can see, it's pretty standard. I dropped down the Daisy duck count this time around. A lot of people go with 4. You also get a lot of people going in the 2-drop slot with Piglet still. I think Steelsong was a pretty strong deck in Archazia's Island, especially post Hiram / Fortisphere ban. It started coming around a lot more until Ruby Sapphire reasserted itself a little bit. But yeah, you've got your Cinderella 1-drop, your Robin Hood 1-drop, and a lot of people I know prefer the Queen shift. I tried that myself. I found the Queen shift the Queen's a little bit weak when she shifted. That she can only take 3 damage, and that she moves out of the picture quite quickly. But it's really great if you want to do a turn 2 whole new world, or if you can get other characters on the board, boost their strength, take down someone's resistance. That's great. But anyway, I went with the Robin Hood shift myself, and that's a personal preference. In the 2 slot, the Troubadour, I backed and forth over the Troubadour and Ursula. Now, Ursula's a great target for your Rapunzels, of which we've also got 4 always. The Troubadour is a little bit better survivability, I found. So I backed and forth. I ran 4 of one, then 4 of the other, then 2 of each. Yeah, it's an either or. They're very similar cards. Excuse me. And for Mr. Smee. Mr. Smee is another really common one in these decks. Then you have the star of the show, as we can see from the first slide, Ariel. You know, she's a 4 of in every single Steelsong deck. If you're going to run it as Steelsong, of course. A lot of people run Amber Steel as aggro, and we'll talk a bit more about that later in the video. Lawrence has made a big comeback in the last set. Always has been a great target for Rapunzel. Great card, you know, a 0/4 quest for 2, 4/4 when he's got no damage on him, and you can just heal him back up with Rapunzel and carry on smashing things with him. 4 Petes, of course, for mirror matches or to stop Be Prepared, or anything like that. Pete is, since he came out, has been a staple in this deck. I went with 2 Prince Naveen's. Again, that's a count that you could go none to 4 on. He's an uninkable, and you've got quite a high uninkable count with your songs. So I went with 2 of him when I dropped the 2 daisies down. As we said before, Rapunzel is an absolute must, and then obviously you've got the shift Robin Hood. I went with something a lot of people did in this set, which is the 6-cost Ariel, the shift line on that. I think that's incredibly strong with the aggro that we had around. Yeah, just a really good card. And I ended up on 4 Miss Bianca. Again, this is one that I backed and forthed on. I had 0 at some points. I had 4 at others. But of course, she's a 5/5 6-cost, or a 4-cost when you have an ally on the field. And when you've got the Troubadour, Daisy, Mr. Smee, Lawrence, these are all allies. So these all count towards making her a 4-cost. And she's another character to sing your Whole New World or your Along Came Zeus. Really, really good character. Really, the most recent addition to these decks, along with the Troubadour. And then, of course, you've got your songs. So we've got 4 Let the Storm Rage On, 4 Strength for a Raging Fire, 4 And Then Along Came Zeus, and 4 Whole New Worlds. They should be in every Steelsong deck, to be honest. There was an argument for World's Greatest Criminal Mind, which I had 2 in at one point. There was an argument even for I Find in My Platinum, I think, at times, when the meta was changing and we had a lot of items decks. And also Bare Necessities is still another song you could put in there. To talk about what decks I've seen other people use, Christoph made a really good comeback in the last set. I think it's a 9-cost quest for 3, but he reduces by 1 cost for each song in your discard. So once you've started singing those songs, he's a great character to get out. But The uninkable situation is still a problem. I think initially people were playing a lot of Madame Medusa, so he wasn't great because obviously he's a 3/7. But as that dropped a lot in Archazia's Island, I think he became a more viable option. So the cards for this set we have Beyond the Horizon, I think is the only card that's really going to make it regularly into SingStar decks. This is a 7-cost uninkable Sing Together 7. So Sing Together, obviously you can have multiple characters do it. Choose any number of players, they discard their hands and draw 3 cards each. So you can do this to just yourself, just your opponent, or yourself and your opponent. So you can reduce your opponent's hand, restock your hand, whatever you want. And you could do this on turn 3 if you're playing a turn 1 Cindy, turn 2 Troubadour or Ursula, and then turn 3 you can empty what's left of your opponent's hand, put it down to 3 cards, and choose to either restock your own hand if you've got nothing good, or keep your own cards, whatever you want to do. It's a really strong combo. I think, like I say, this is the only real set 8 Reign of Jafar card that's going to have an impact in a lot of these decks. And whether it's a 2 of, a 4 of, whatever, I think you'll see a lot of it. Maybe not even in just Steelsong. I'm thinking, well, I've already seen quite a lot of it in Emerald Steel. And paired with Prince John, that's quite nasty. Paired with Ursula, who can of course double sing it and the Sing Together, very nasty song. But yeah, I mean, that's going to have a huge impact. Other cards that we could see a bit more of, we have Namari, the legendary steel Namari, 0/5, 5-cost inkable, quest for 2, but she gets +1 strength for each card in your discard. And also, when you play the character and at the start of your turn, you may draw a card and then choose and discard a card. Now, this is really useful for things like if you've got multiple uninkables or multiple whole new worlds in your hand, she can filter that down quite well. And of course, she can sing a whole new world. So I think you're going to see some of her in these decks. I think potentially she could replace Miss Bianca in a few. But it's a really strong card in general. The weaknesses, of course, are she's easily removed with things like, you've got several methods of removal. I mean, World's Greatest Criminal Mind will remove her a lot of the time because you're not playing her till later, till you've got more in your discard. And there's a lot of other removal for her, which there would be for any character in that slot. Onto what we're probably not going to see so much of in Steelsong decks, but in Amber Steel in general, I think. So we're going to cover this one a little bit more depth when I look at the Amber Steel aggro decks that are coming around. And this is the 1-drop Rhino. So he's a 1-cost 1/2, and when you play this character, chosen opposing character gets -1 until the start of your next turn, -1 strength. Now, on its own, not an incredible card, but then we have the shift line on turn 2. So while this character has no damage, he gains resist +2. He's a 4/3 inkable. He's also an alloy if you're playing Miss Bianca. Quest for 2. And of course, on turn 2, that means you can sing your songs such as Along Came Zeus or any of your other songs going. At that point, you've only got the one character on the board on turn 2. But yeah, no, just in general, he's an incredibly strong card. He's hard to remove. He's an early big quester. I think you'll see him in a lot more than just Steelsong decks, and potentially won't see him in many Steelsong decks, but he's just really strong. Another card you might see some of, but again is more for the sort of aggro Amber Steel decks or Amber anything decks. Chernodogs particularly is the Lady, the 3-cost rare Lady. When you play this character, you may play a character with cost 2 or less for free. As I say, she's a 3-cost inkable 2/2 who quests for 2, and you can use her to drop one of your singers potentially, or something a bit more aggressive. We've got Penny, Lilo, and Mr. Smee, of course, so the other real common targets you're going to see for Lady in either of those two types of Amber Steel decks. I think she's a really strong card. As I say, I don't think we'll see much of her in Steelsong. In fact, I don't think Steelsong got anywhere near the help other decks got in Reign of Jafar. I think we're we saw, obviously, of course, one or two cards that maybe will go in, and the rest is kind of unchanged. And you might see a lot of Steelsong decks that are completely unchanged from previously. I think as a deck, we know rotation's coming in 3 months. Without the songs, it's not a viable deck strategy or deck type anymore unless we get some good reprints. But I think you'd need to see Aerial, you'd need to see Strength or Storm Rage on be reprinted before anyone's going to go anywhere near anything closely resembling Steelsong again. But it's had a good run. I mean, we're on set 8 now, and it's been there since set 1, really strong in set 2. And it's just been an incredible deck that I think is good. We're going to go a different route going forwards. I won't be surprised if we see a lot of it still in set 8 eventually, once the meta settles down. For the time being, I'm not seeing much at all. Early on, I gave it a good try. And, of course, with Beyond the Horizon, we had some really good cards in there, really good deck. But the aggro meta we've got right now is just really pushing it out. And it's a shame, but it was always going to happen in a few months' time anyway. So that's a bit about Steelsong. Again, I've kept this quite brief because I don't think we're going to see many changes going into Reign of Jafar. I don't think there's many cards to really look at. I think in Archazia's Island we had an incredibly strong Steelsong meta in the meta, and it was winning tournaments. But as always, it's an inconsistent deck. If you don't hit those whole new worlds at the right time, if you don't hit your songs when you need them, you don't hit your aerials to find your songs, you can really struggle with it. But if it hits curve, it's the most unbeatable deck, I think, in the game. When it hits curve, nothing's going to stop that. But yeah, anyway, thank you for viewing, and I'll be back. I'm going to do a bit about Ruby Amethyst next, I think. And I've got a few more of these videos to put together. We're going to look, obviously, at the Amber Steel aggro, which I think was less of a thing in Archazia's Island than it was previously, but it's definitely going to be more of a thing going forwards. So that's really one to watch out for. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Good night.